All right, welcome everybody to, I believe this is the seventh solo episode of Done. Haven't got to do one in a while. Just life's been crazy. It's been busy. We got a puppy. Work's been about as crazy as it's been. And I wanted to do this and kind of update you guys on everything that's happened. My Oilers have gotten swept out of the playoffs. There's been lots of UFC stuff. Clearly can't get my mic to sit in the right direction here. I don't know why. What else is going on? Oh no, now we've fallen right down. What do we got here? 1 second, my patient people. Is that better? Can you hear me? Ooh, look at that. That's comfy. Yeah, I don't know. It's been quite the month. Not even sure where to start. I want to be as honest with you guys as I can about how I'm doing, where I am with this podcast, and everything else in my life, because I feel like that is always what drew me into podcasts, was the authenticity and the openness and the journey that it allowed me to take with other people. And I want to be that for you guys. But there's certain aspects that throw that for a loop. And in trying to keep with that and also trying to preserve whatever piece of privacy intact for others is tough. Because for me, I don't care. I want to talk about everything. I want to be an open book, but that's not fair to some people around me. And people have built things up that at this point, it would be unfair for me to come in and tear them down and bring in my personal feelings on them on here when it doesn't just affect me. So I've been really struggling with that. To be honest with you guys, the last couple of weeks, if not a month, has been one of the most, the biggest struggles I've had with another bout of depression here. It's something I know I've talked about it a million times in this podcast about how I started this podcast and that it came from my first bout with depression that I'd never felt before. It was the start of COVID. I was very unfulfilled. Work was really difficult. It had been since I started work. It was just difficult since I jumped into this role. It's been hard. It's a hard role. It's something that, not many people would do at 23 years old, would hop into a position like that with that much responsibility and that much on your shoulders. But I did it, and I'm proud that I did it. And that's one of those things where it kills me not to be able to talk about that, because I feel like for me, with this podcast, I'm starting to build a little bit of traction and show who I am and that I have something to show to you guys and that I have something of worth. But other than that, the only accomplishment I've really done in my life is that role, and I'm not able to talk about it on the podcast. So I think that is probably the biggest reason why I've been the most upset as of late, is to have such a huge part of my life, which is work, be so forbidden to talk about, and that other topics that are really big parts of my life I can't talk about on here either. And I think I'm going to start finding little ways to push and talk about it a little bit more, because it is a big part of my life. And I think there is a balance that I can bring that allows me to talk about more and be more honest with you guys without hurting other people and not telling, speaking out of school, if you will. And it's tough, because I feel like when I try and dance around it, it comes across as if, it's certain people, and that's not it. It's the structures themselves. It's the value system you have to have in the business that we're in, and how that lines up. In that, I always thought that was the only way, but then in finding podcasts and listening to people like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and show there's a better way that you can still make lots of money, but you can do it with your values intact. But in a corporate structure, that is not how things work. Corporations do not work that way. There's shareholders, there's people that need to make money, and there's feelings go out the window, and people don't care about you. You're a number. And that's not how I operate. I care about my people. I care about my people deeply, and I love what they do, and they go the extra mile. And you see this when you get companies that get to that size, you see there's people that are amazing and go so far out of their position and go those extra miles to make up for other people. And then you just see these absolute shitheads that have only skills in brown nosing and moving up the corporate ladder, and they stay in there. And it was something that I was taught from a young age that, hey, there's nothing you can do about this. This is just life. This is how corporations work. You're going to have to deal with these people. Just learn to deal with it. Laugh at it. Find your crew of people, which we have is our little crew of people within our organization that we can, commiserate about this with, and have a laugh every once in a while about what we're seeing and the ridiculous of some of these things. But then you also have, it's tough because I care about these people so much, and they go this extra mile for me. And then when I see them come to me because they're pushed to their breaking points from this stuff, whether it's COVID and whether it's these restrictions, whether it's just corporate bullshit that is so not their fault, and yet that puts them in positions where they're at the end of their ropes and they come to me crying, and that breaks my heart, and I'm forced every day to corrupt my values and to be somebody I'm not, and I'm very good at it. And I hate saying that because it sounds like I'm, tooting my own horn, and I don't want to, but just, I think if I was able to talk to you guys about it and tell you what I've done and, brag a little bit, I'd be able to tell you that there's some real calculable things that I could show that I am really good at what I do, but I do not enjoy it. I have to put myself in a position, I have to work within a value set that is not my own. And that is one of the biggest things I cannot stand. I'm so innately tied to my values, and I always have been. That's what got me in trouble in school. I always had to stand up for what I thought was right. And if a kid beside me was getting in trouble and I didn't think deserved it, I had to go to war with that teacher, even though I'm, in grade 3. It doesn't matter. That's who I am. I've always had that. And that means a lot to me. And to have to be able to sacrifice that each day, little by little, just pulls a lot out of me. And I can do it. I don't even know where to start with this. So it started a couple weeks ago. Some really big shit went down at work, and we're really busy and a lot's going on. And at the same time, things finally fell into place. And this is the tough part about how to tell this story, because it's not all bad too. It's a roller coaster, which life is. And maybe I'm just going to try and be honest, and hopefully this rings true with you guys as well, because it's not all bad. Like I say, this last month has been, maybe the most depressed I've been in my life, right? Like it's worse, but then there's these amazing highs throughout it that I'm able to take in, and it's not all down. So it started, work was crazy. Work's been crazy. I've been work has for a long time been a cycle of probably since COVID. And I think even before, but at least before COVID, this would only be every once in a while, it would get so much, it'd be so much on your shoulders, so much heavy that it would become like this. But now it's just been this since COVID. I'm depressed and I go and I can put a face on. It's tough to get out of the bed in the morning. That is the toughest. And I'm sure anybody that's talked about depression, they know that. Just that getting up in the morning is so tough, which is why I like getting up, forcing myself up at 6 a.m. I start to run. I do a cold shower that just kicks you right into that and starts you raw for that day, gets you running. It's a surefire way to give you that kick in the ass that you need to get going. And that's been really hard to do lately. And I just find it harder and harder, as the depression sits in more, it's hard to really get that out of there. And then we got a dog, and now we're not sleeping, because she needs to go out every 2 seconds. And maybe I should just take a pit stop here to just tell the story again to the dog, because this is one of the high points. So we've been after a dog for years. I've wanted a dog. As soon as I was going to move out, I said, I'm going to get a dog. But when I moved up to GP in 2017 at 23 years old, I was all gung ho, I'm going to get a dog, going to get a dog, going to get a dog. And then I realized, hey, I'm at work like 7, especially at the start, 7 a.m. till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. Then I go to the gym for an hour. Then I come home. It's bed. It's back to work in the morning. What am I getting a dog for? That is so mean. It would not be the right time. I can't get a dog. And I honestly, guys, had one picked out. It was just like my parents' dog, Chloe. It was, going to be a little 4 or 5 pound little fuzzball. And I loved it. And that night before I had to pull the trigger, I stopped myself because I said, this isn't fair. I'm going to wait. And at this time I was doing long distance with Alyssa. She was still in Winnipeg doing her master's degree. And she would only come up for the summer months. And then once a month I'd fly there. She'd fly here, but just not a good setup for dogs. We said, okay, I'm going to wait until you finish your degree. You move out here. Now there's 2 of us. One can watch it. Then we'll get a dog. That's all good. And that happened, just shortly after COVID, a couple months in, and just into starting this podcast, Alyssa moved out here full time, and we started looking for a dog. And that was the process, because Alyssa wanted a giant dog. I wanted, a medium-sized one. She really likes Bernese Mountain Dogs, but they are a giant breed. It's hard to find one that kind of fits my size range. But then my parents are both allergic, so we needed a hypoallergenic dog. So we needed now a Bernese Mountain Dog crossed with something hypoallergenic that was going to be under 40, 50 pounds. Sounds easy. Not as easy as you'd think. Oh, also Alyssa needed it to be tricolored, which, and again, I'm saying all this to bitch and complain, but I'm so glad we waited and so happy that we stuck to this list of things we wanted. And that all goes to Alyssa. I was so ready to compromise and just get whatever came to us, because I just wanted a dog that bad. And she was the one that put her foot down and said, no, we're going to find this perfect dog and let's do it. And I trusted her, and I'm amazed as it turned out. So it needed to be tricolored, hypoallergenic, Bernese, smaller than 45 pounds, and we are searching and searching, and we had ones lined up, and then the mom ended up getting cancer that was supposed to be bred, and it had to be put down, and that was heartbreaking, and just looking and looking and looking, and I'm not the most patient person. I don't know if you guys have picked up on that yet. I have, a little bit of a short attention span, a little bit of ADD, a lot more things going on up there that I'm sure will come out one day that I, think I got going on. I'm not the easiest person. Let's leave it at that. But the whole process of finding a dog was just so grating on me. My heart couldn't take it. I couldn't get excited over it. It was frustrating because of all, that list that I just read to you guys, that's the Coles note. It also had F1, furnished, all this. If you guys know what dogs are, I still don't know what these terms mean, but they were very important and they all had to be perfect. Like I said, I just totally tapped out of the process. I said, when you have a litter that we can put a deposit down, tell me, I'll put the deposit down. Until then, just don't bring it up to me. I don't want to get excited. I don't want to get my heart broken again. And probably, it's got to be, if we've had the dog for 3 weeks now, had to be 5 weeks ago. No, it was even further back than this that we put a deposit down with this breeder. And if a litter came up and Alyssa said, hey, there's a litter. I don't know, if there's going to be any tricolors in it. Don't know if we're fifth pick out of 8. I don't know if we're going to get everything we want. And I said, hey, well, if it's there, we'll try it. So, and obviously with COVID, there's all these scams going on with dogs where people just saw everybody wants a dog right now, big demand on the market. These slithery people come in and just, grab deposits from people, take old litters and put pictures up, and then you'll never see them again. So I was very worried about this as well. And this breeder we got it from was not the best person to get a hold of, super flaky, hard to do. We were trying to set up a video call to pick the pup that we wanted, and we got some pictures, but just probably takes, a day to get a response back from any question you send. Anyways, so we get it. It's a week before or 2 weeks before, and now it's real. We're doing the video call. We have pictures of all the litter. I have a favorite. Alyssa has a favorite. But we figured, what are the odds that, if we're fifth pick out of 8 puppies, like what are the odds that one of our 2 will be there? Because they're the cutest little button. They're all cute, but with that tricolor and all this stuff. So the time comes and she says, both of them are still available. No way. So we get them both on a video call. We see them. We love them both. They're so cute. I don't know how we picked, still to this day. Well, we picked mine. That's how I know. Selfishly, maybe I put my foot down. I don't know. We're so happy with it. But the one that Alyssa liked had this such a cute little, like a reverse question mark on her head in white. And it was just the cutest little thing. But we're so glad we went with the little smaller one, and they both had little great personalities. And that was it. We were getting a dog. So that was the weekend. And then I think it was the following Friday, we drove down to Edmonton on Thursday after work, saw my parents and my sister and fiance, and we told my parents, but we didn't tell my sister Courtney, who you've heard on this podcast, actually, and her fiance. They're both in the first couple episodes, her and Liam. We didn't tell them that we're getting this puppy because they've been looking after a puppy too, and they've got a bunch of things in their life that need to line up before they can make sure that's the right call for themselves. But we didn't tell them. And so Friday, they were like, why are you guys up in Edmonton? Like, what are you doing? And we just kind of were super vague. And it's actually really funny. One of those things where looking back on it, they were both like, yeah, this is super weird. Like, you guys were acting odd and stuff, but they just didn't put it together. Just, we're up in Edmonton every once in a while. It's not a big deal. So we get up early the next morning, drive down to Calgary. We were doing a pickup at IKEA. And we had to go down early because Alyssa needs to do a run through IKEA. Every time we come within 30 miles of an IKEA, if we don't go in, it's just, I don't know, trust me, don't do it. You guys know why. So we get there early. There's a huge lineup for IKEA. Alyssa's hungry. She wanted to go get, so I said, I'll go get in line for IKEA. You could get something to eat or something like that. We had the crate all set up in the back of the vehicle, ready to go. I don't travel well. I have a short temper. I was a little tweaked out and ready to go. We hadn't heard from her all day. Like, I'm like, if we drive all the way down to fucking Calgary and this chick does not show up, I am going to snap and lose my mind. So getting closer to the time, we're calling, we're texting, nothing. 5 minutes after the time, she said, text back, or maybe I called her, maybe she finally picked up, and she said, I'm 5 minutes away. So holy shit, this is real now. And leading up to it, I was very excited for the puppy, but very nervous because I know how much work dogs are, and I know the exhaustion and the not sleeping, and I was worried about that. And it's a lot to train a dog, but we're so excited. And she shows up, and this dog comes out, guys, and I can't even explain to you. It almost makes me want to cry just thinking about how perfect she was and how excited she was to meet us and how much she loved us right from the start. Like, oh, we just sat for an hour in the IKEA parking lot on our asses, just letting this dog crawl all over us and bite us, and just, we were so in love with her, and she was so in love with us from the very start, like just absolutely obsessed, following us around. It started off with me. It's now transitioned to Alyssa, but somebody has to go to work and bring home the bacon. I don't know. I think if I would have been the one staying home, she would have loved me still, but that's just dog parent back and forth. So we sit there. We just love this little thing. She's so cute and so cuddly and just everything we love. And we give her a little bit of water. We're there for an hour, and then we're supposed to get food from the breeder, this specific food that this dog's been on. And she just takes off, like we're sitting there in the, cause she had like 5 or 6 different puppies that were getting picked up. So we were there first, got our dog, we're playing with it. And then, other people came, we're doing that. And she was had dogs all over the place in this little corner of the IKEA parking lot. And then all of a sudden we turn around, she's gone. Oh shit. So we'll just pick up some food in Edmonton. We call everywhere in Edmonton on our drive back. Couldn't find it anyway. First I forced Alyssa to drive to Red Deer. While I sat in the back with little Ahsoka. Oh, the name of our puppy is Ahsoka, who is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. If you're not a big Star Wars fan, you probably have no idea who that is. That is fine. I get some weird looks telling people the name. Middle name is Pancakes, so it's Ahsoka Pancakes von Walkerbarth, and I love her to death. Anyway, so I sit in the back, and I just have my hand in her cage with the door open, and she just sleeps, and then she's sleeping on my arm, and she just all over me, just like absolutely melting my heart. So I do that, whatever Calgary to Red Deer is, that little hour drive, hour and a half. I don't know what it is. Stop, switch. Alyssa hops in the back. I start driving. We get about 2 minutes, or we stop, let her out, let her pee and all this stuff, and then hop back in. And then we get maybe 3 minutes down the road, and it is diarrhea city, baby. Oh, just destroys that bed in her blanket with some mad shits. So we're just almost not even out of Red Deer yet, because I swear I'd only been driving for 2 or 3 minutes at that point. Pull over, get her out, get her cleaned up, get the bed cleaned up. She's fuzzy as hell. Already get 5 or 6 people coming up to us saying, holy shit, you have the cutest dog of all time. And, we were pretty sure of that, but we thought we were biased, but I think we do have the cutest dog of all time. Anyhoozle, we get her all cleaned up, back in the car. She's, again, great for Alyssa, just sleeping and snugging on her, and has a great rest of the trip, the drive back to Edmonton. We show up, and my family is just absolute softies, start to finish. So it is full family on the front lawn, playing with this dog, just absolutely falling in love even further, getting our first time with her. And it was awesome. And then my sister was able to come home. Courtney and Liam got to see the dog, and we're just all loving up on this dog. And we had a great little night together, had a couple of family friends come over and just meet her, and had a nice big meal. And then next morning, we got up early to head back. Why did we get up so early to head back? I don't remember. I think I might have had a podcast booked. Who would I have a podcast booked with? I don't even know. Anyways, at this point, doesn't matter. We get home early. She has, first couple days in the house, she's just getting used to it, exploring, getting her legs under her. She's very much adventurous, not a freaking lick of fear in that dog. She will do anything, jump off anything, has no brains in her head, but also is the smartest dog ever. Way too smart, probably too smart for me and Alyssa, quite frankly, at this point while we're figuring it out. And she is bad, guys. Let me tell you, like, she knows how cute she is. She knows how in love with her that we are, and she is obsessed with us. She will not stop following one of us around the house. She's always got to be attached to one of her ankle. We can't take our eyes off of her a second, because she loves attention so much. If you start talking to each other or watch TV or watch the hockey game for even a second, she is darting off to go pee somewhere, darting off to bite something, or biting you. And she bites hard, and she has sharp teeth and does not get discipline at all. She just doesn't understand it. And we're trying to just ignore her when she's doing bad things. Doesn't work for this snap show as well. And you're supposed to be consistent with it, praise when they do good things, just ignore them when they're doing bad things. doesn't work with me all that well. So I think I'm making it worse by not being consistent with it. But, it's hard not to yell. It's hard not to give her a little smack when she's, not letting go of a shoe or whatever, and being nice. I'm a big softie too. I can't punish a dog like you probably need to punish a dog, but it has been, anyway, that first weekend, still so in love with this dog. And that's the thing. She'll be bad and run around and get into all this trouble. And then she tires out, and then she just curls up on you and climbs on you and just falls asleep in your arms or in your lap, and just totally knows how to play the game where she knows she is eternally never in trouble because she's just too cute to be in trouble. And she's well aware of that. Anyway, so that was, Friday night, then Saturday night, and we're crate training as well. I don't know if you guys know what crate training is, but you're trying to teach them to stay in the crate at times during the day and during the night. But she was also still diarrheaing, and she had a little bit of blood in it, and we're worried about this thing because we just love her so much. So we're calling vets like a mother, and they're just saying, no, she's fine. She's fine. She's got, as long as she's still active and she's still eating and drinking and still, a happy puppy, don't worry about it. We have you booked in for, it was the following Wednesday at that point, not the Wednesday upcoming from that weekend, but it was the following Wednesday was supposed to be, her appointment with the vet that we had decided to go with, because we had, all these amazing recommendations from all these people around GP for what vets are best and all this. And we ended up calling them all because we weren't really satisfied with the answer of just getting kind of pushed off. So, she's getting better, but then now she's not sleeping through the night. She has to poop and pee like multiple times an hour. And if we don't take her out, she's doing it wherever it is. And we put her in her cage at night. She's great and she'll sleep, but then she'll bark because she's got to go out, and she goes out is awesome. You put her down, she pees, she comes back up, and she goes back to bed usually until the morning. And she knows that it's morning time. She can probably wake us up and get us up and at 'em. If there's one ray of sunlight, if it's 4:30 in the morning, it's a little tougher, but still not getting much sleep, still very difficult. We're worried about her because there's, blood in her stool. And before we got this dog, we heard from so many people this parvo disease, parvovirus. I don't know if people have heard it. Apparently it's this virus that is super easy for puppies to get. It's what you vaccinate, the main thing that you're vaccinating your dogs against, and they get 3 vaccinations. She's had her first ones, then she has, right before we got her, then it's 4 weeks, then she gets her second ones, 4 weeks after that, she gets her third ones. And then by that time, she's pretty good. But until then, you have this risk of getting this disease called parvo, and apparently can stay in grass for like 3 years, and you can't let the dog on it. So this whole time we are being so careful with her, only on concrete, not bringing her on any grass, not introducing her to any puppies that we don't know that aren't vaccinated, all this stuff. We're just being so careful with it because we had just beaten into us before, just like, you have to watch out for parvo, do not get parvo. And then one of the main symptoms of parvo is diarrhea, upset stomach, not eating, lethargic, blood in the diarrhea. So she doesn't have the lethargic in that, but she's still not doing good. And one of the vets had said, oh, maybe she just has giardia, right? Just a stomach bug. Humans can get it, dogs can get it, drinking water, whatever. So Alyssa's the one that keeps calling these vets, and they keep telling her, sloughing her off, she's still eating, still drinking, she's fine, yada, yada, whatever. I don't like that. I called Wednesday and I just said, hey, my girlfriend's been calling. I know this whole thing, she's going to be fine. And we have an appointment booked next Wednesday. You guys are busy. I don't care. I want some tests. Like, I just need the peace of mind that she doesn't have parvo, and we're not going to lose this little angel that we love so fucking much. And like, I'm way too invested at this point. I don't care. And they go, well, it's going to be $80 for a parvo test. And then if you want to do a full panel, it's going to be another 200 and whatever. I said, fuck it. I don't care. Charge me what it is. It's my daughter. This is my child. Like, I don't care. So that Thursday we get a little fecal sample, bring it down to the vet's office. Or no, that was Wednesday that day. Alyssa did it. And, they give me a call Thursday afternoon. They said, hey, we did the parvo test in-house, negative for parvo. The rest of the panel needs to get sent out. But we'll contact you. But the main one, that's what I was worried about, parvo. Okay, it's probably just giardia, probably just, stomach bug. She'll be fine. All fine and dandy. Again, at this point, neither of us are sleeping much. She's bad. You can't take your eye off her for 2 seconds. So Alyssa's not getting anything done all day while I go to work. I'm a zombie at work because I'm so tired. And like I said earlier, work has just been one thing after another with all this going on, and then just trying to handle these huge things and having other people that have been rock stars, needing help as well. It was just such a thing of a lot going on that I was just not in a good place come Friday. Neither was Alyssa, probably, if I'm she's the one that has to deal with this mutt all day. And even though that cuteness is there, still the draw of following around, and even though you're doing everything right, taking her out every 20 minutes, she still runs and pees every time, and gets away. And as every day goes by, she gets more rambunctious and more vicious and more, confident in her space and in the house and within the pecking order. And, that was tough. And, my parents came up for the weekend that Friday, and I was just at the end of my rope. I had nothing. I wasn't excited about nothing. This is how you know it's bad, guys. There was a hockey game Friday night, Oilers playoff hockey. And for anybody that knows me, even tangentially, will know that's usually all day, can't breathe, cold sweats, so excited. I couldn't give a fuck. I didn't care about the Oilers. I didn't care about nothing. I was that depressed. And that's when I know it's bad. But I didn't think it would ever be playoff hockey. I didn't give a fuck what happened for the Oilers on Friday. Just couldn't be bothered, right? And that was tough. And then the next day, got up and was still all over the map, and I was anxious, and I had a podcast with an ultra marathon runner from town here, Phil Troyer. He was coming over to the house to do it. I had to get it all set up in the basement, and I was setting it up, and my parents were up and they wanted to do all this housework, and that was awesome. And that was part of the reason they're coming up, because just the house is falling apart because it's just been so busy and so, just down with trying to balance work. And then every time from the time I get up and force myself out of the bed, it's just staring at the clock, trying to get through the day till the time I can come home, and then just recovering enough so I can go do it again tomorrow. That's what life ends up boils down to. So then, cutting the lawn and fixing light bulbs and all that kind of stuff falls off the edge. And then when you add all the podcast stuff on top of that, it really cuts down on all those things. Anyway, so that was one of the things. So then that morning we're trying to, do all these jobs. We have this huge list for my parents to help us out with, and we're doing that. And I'm not setting up for my podcast. I need time to meditate before and get into a rhythm and not be bugged and to think. And I had none of that. And people were bugging me right up until that. And I was fucking freaking out. I hated it. My stomach is twisted and turning, just putting myself back on that point. And I know, and it's something where I appreciate this podcast and treat it so seriously that when those around me just don't care and just ask me questions like, fuck, I have to podcast into it. Like, this is my life. This is what I care about. And this is the lesson that me and Alyssa went through when I first started the podcast, and just what I need on a recording day. Like, if I come home and I know I have to record at 6:00 and I work all day till 5, between 5 and 6, you can't bug me with a lot of shit. You got to be very supportive. And she's amazing with it. It makes me tease and now recognizes that and be there for it. My parents didn't know that. And I am just freaking out. And then, Phil showed up. Awesome guy, introduced him to the pup, sat down, started talking. And as much as these couple of weeks has been hard and the podcast stuff around has been even an added thing that it's been tough to handle along with all the work stuff. For those time when I'm actually recording, when, the equipment's set up and it's just me and somebody else shooting the shit, it is the best time. We had such a good conversation. I'm really excited for that one to come out. We just had an amazing podcast, and that was really nice to see. And then, finished up the podcast, went out to help, Ingo fix the siding on my house. We he installed this bidet that I had half installed but didn't have long enough screws, and he helped me fix that. And we installed a bunch of things, hung a big photo, fixed a bunch of light bulbs, changed out some fixtures, just kind of did a full rental on the house. And that was really nice to see. And it was nice to spend some time with my parents. And that was, kind of a bonus, and they got to take a little bit of the dog off of us and give us a little bit more free time to enjoy ourselves and just breathe a little bit. And then they took off, and we had the dog again. And it was, it just ever since it's been more and more of that, of just still not sleeping much. Oh, I didn't even get to it. This is where I'm leading with this whole story. So Saturday night, we had that great day, got all this stuff done. Tough day, had some good talks with my parents about, how I'm doing and that I'm not doing good and what I need and all that stuff. It's nice to at least get it off the chest and have, just to not feel so alone with what you're dealing with. And usually I can do this type of stuff, but the biggest things holding me back and the biggest things, really eating at me and putting me in such a bad place are things I can't talk about on here. This is my catharsis. This is when I come out and I can let everything out, and I can't. So it was nice to kind of have a little bit of chat with them and talk about some of the things I can't talk about here. Anyway, so then when did we do it? Saturday, there was no hockey game. I was watching the fights, threw the fights on, thanks you to my family for putting up with the fights while you're around. I know my mom absolutely can't stand it. She's got her book in front of her face like this, just trying to block because she doesn't want to see the screen because she is completely disgusted by fighting and does not get it and has no time for it and just wants nothing to do with it. And I get a text on my phone from the vet and they say, hey, Nick, or hey, Alyssa, because she gave my number, whatever. Hey, Alyssa, the full panel came back. Ahsoka tested positive for parvovirus, giardia, coronavirus, and Claridia. I don't know. It's something, it sounds like Clarissa because I remember it as Clarissa Shields, the boxer, something with a C, another stomach parasite, and just gets a text message and then just says, okay, so if you need to ask any more questions or call, here's the emergency vet number. It will be a $50 charge if you call. I'm not too happy at this point because I called him and it said like, hey, I'm worried about this dog. I need the peace of mind. This is what I'm worried about. And then just to give me a text when you send the message of this disease that I told you that we were so scared of before. And that's the whole reason I'm spending $300-400 on all this testing is to make sure that she doesn't have this parvo thing. Now you tell me she's positive with it after you just said she tested negative. I'm pissed, but whatever. You know, nothing you can do that night. We just said, okay, well, we'll see how she looks in the morning. Might call this vet and just see what's up. And, you know, I was just going to tell them, you can't just expect me not to call. Like, fuck you for charging me for this. Whatever. I digress. Morning happens. She has some really running diarrhea, lots of blood in it. I've had enough. So my parents take off. I call the vet. He says, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like usually these parvo tests here are like 99% accurate. I've never seen this happen where it's tested negative here and then gone to another one. But he said, I've got a bunch of emergencies going on right now. I'm in the clinic. Can I call you back in a couple hours and we can talk a little bit more in depth and see what we need to be done? I said, yeah, sure. No problem. So he calls me back later that day and says like, okay, what's the full story? I break it down for him exactly what I said and just kind of what my worries were. And he just said, yeah, no, she's still eating, still drinking. Probably fine till Wednesday. Like I can't promise you she's not going to drop dead before then. Like that'd be malfeasance for me to say that. But, you know, I also can't promise you that she needs to come in right now. I'm fairly certain she will be fine. I just said, you know what? If we bring her in on Wednesday, you guys are probably just going to put her on antibiotics, correct? And he said, yes. So I said, well, why not? Like, I don't care if I have to pay all these emergency fees, whatever. Can I bring her in today and get her on? He said, yeah. So he said, but since it was kind of funny because I don't think he believed that she had parvo. When we got there, like we did everything right. They met us outside, just put a pad down on the concrete out front. Like they made us wait outside. Everyone masked up for COVID, all the stuff. Great dog. She goes in. She's so excited to see them, jumping all over them until the thermometer went up her ass. She was having a great time. And even then her tail didn't stop wagging. It just started wagging really slow. And she just looked so confused. She's like, what? Who's violating me right now? Anyways, I digress. So we go there, we get a bunch of different, so he explains it to us. He said like, yeah, we've never seen this, but they use PCR tests at these labs and they can spin them up and they can see, he said, also the one that starts with the C, the Clarissa Shields disease. He said like, it's a super low amount. It's just, these tests are super accurate, they can see like the tiniest little amounts. Like we see this in the UFC with these guys popping. USADA's testing has gotten so good. They can find like these micrograms of all this stuff. And he said like, they say the threshold of when like they should be sick by this is like 3,000. We only see 1,000 on this one. And he said like the big things he was worried about is the corona. And when I say coronavirus, that doesn't mean that COVID-19, that's just a cold. Like there's tons of types of coronaviruses out there. That's just one that the dog happened to have and test positive for. And he was more worried about that and the giardia than anything. And he almost thought that this parvo isn't even a thing. He said, we're going to give you the antibiotics. It works for all of it. Like we're going to treat her as if she does have all this stuff, but he did not seem convinced. He told us he was going to call the lab and see like maybe something went wrong. Any whoozle. So we do that. We get her all medicated up. She's on 2 different types of antibiotics, a probiotic. We have Metamucil going in her food. We had to change her diet to beef and rice. So we cook up beef and rice and that's what she's eating. Then we have these kind of like probiotic food things, like these gut health foods for her. And we've been just nurses ever since. And you guys should see the battles we go to inject this antibiotics down her throat. We get these little syringes and she's just such a fighter and just wants to bite everything and bite you that thinks it's a game maybe and doesn't like the taste all that much. And we're getting better at it for sure after how many days it's been, 6 days or something. But it's still a war every time, morning and night, to do all that. And thankfully, she's looking so much better. Like, she never was not looking good. We're always pretty confident that she was healthy and happy, but diarrhea cleared up. She's got some good old giant turds now. Good old dog. Still pissing all over the house. Still using it. It seems like she does it out of spite. It seems like she if we're not paying attention to her for any amount of time, or if we watch the hockey game or take our eyes off her, that's when she wants to go bite on something or chew on something or go pee and run up to the landing, because she knows it's, if she gets up there a couple seconds before, she can get the pee off before we get up there. Ugh. Oh, and that's the other thing. Because of all this and her gut and changing the food, we couldn't give her any treats at first. And we're just starting to, we got these pumpkin treats that are good for her tum and that we're starting to do, and we're starting to do training again. But trying to teach a puppy without treats is tough. Like, and at the start, she was so obsessed with us and just loved attention so much that she was very much reacted and would, come and do all these things and respond just because she loved the praise. But then as she got a little more settled in and was like, I'm not falling for that one again. Where's the goods? Where's the goods, guys? So that kind of went off a little bit of a track, but just all of this, just kind of where I'm going with all this of just how much we love this dog, but how much effort it's been and how little sleep we've gotten. And then you add that in with all this other stuff is kind of where I'm going to for bringing you up to speed on how I'm doing. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love this dog so much. It's just really highlighting some of the other areas of my life where I think changes need to be made. And I think changes are coming, and there's going to be, I've got to find a better balance of, finding the parts of work that I can do, and the parts that I can't, and the parts that just drive me nuts, just finding ways to deal with that, because it's never the people that we hire that cause all this. It's the bureaucratic and the corporate ways. It's like you're in this boat and you're the captain of this ship, and there's always things going wrong on the boat. You're always fixing things, you're running around, but just every once in a while you have these things that are due to nobody's fault on the boat. You just get these huge punctures in the boat, right? And that's out of our control. And that's just us having to work under a corporation, and they make decisions and we need to go with them. And they make us use systems, and they make us use things that are 100% not within our control, but are almost 100% of the time making our lives harder, making our lives worse. So you have these people that are just breaking their backs to make sure this job gets done, and that they're working hard and they're doing amazing work. And then the system just closes. Oh, well, the system decided to just delete 1,000, entries or whatever, just making things up. Now you have to sit for 2 days on hold with the help desk line to just to be told that it needs to be escalated. And then you have to manually enter these. So now your workload just got absolutely blown up. You're already stressed to your wits. And then you come to me and I go, I'm so sorry, but there's not much we can do about it. That's just the reality of what we're working with. And it's that over and over again, and on business calls and, pricing and all these things that are of the things that are within our control, we do so well, and we're so successful, and we have such good people, and we work together, and we're a family, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful. And then there's parts that aren't within our control, and they tear down. It's like you have to put in 150% effort to get out 40% output. And that 40% output we get is so amazing, but it's so frustrating to know that we're being held back. It's like you're tied. It's like you have 3 anchors tied behind you while you're trying to run a marathon. Like, you could do better without this. And it's so frustrating. And it's so hard, because as a leader, what do you want to, you want to help them. And it's so frustrating being that helpless to not be able to help. And in so many other ways we can. And the creative and just absolutely brilliant ways to work around this that we've found is so amazing. And the people we have are so amazing. And the people that go the extra mile to cover up for those shortcomings and work within these systems and spend those hours on those lines, it's absolutely amazing. And that's the positive, but then there's a negative. But now it's time to find ways to concentrate on what I'm doing and find the things that I enjoy and the things that are making the best use of my time, because over these last couple of years, and especially since COVID, my role has changed immensely. I'm not doing what I was brought here to do. My role changed so that I'm now doing a lot more, and I'm pulled away from the day-to-day running of this area that I have and all these employees that I have and coworkers. And then I have to get pulled away to go do all these things and put out fires that are on this side that are, the entire business as a whole, right? The high level stuff, and then I'm not in the office and I'm missing the day to day and what I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be that person that's, making sure everybody's okay and getting what they need and not being overwhelmed in that. And I'm so pulled away. It's just tough. It's that is not just a full-time job. That is a full-time job that somebody would need to dedicate everything to, right? Like, it's hard to explain. Like, I feel like when I bring this up that I'm struggling to do the podcast and this full-time job, people around me just think, oh, you're just lazy and you just want to not work. And it's like, no, I don't mind the work and I love the work at times. There's just certain parts of it that really do not jive with who I am as a person and what I have to do and what compromises I have to make. And that's what eats at me. And I have to justify that with myself of knowing that this is not right. And this does not jive with who I am as a person. And I don't like to just cut people's throats and do all these things. And I care about my people and I want to take care of them. But when that's not incentivized and you have to work twice as hard now to still, make all the money and make sure your business is successful, but also to make sure people are treated right, when all the incentive structures around, all the people telling you and everyone above you says, who the fuck cares if people are happy or if they enjoy coming to work as you? Are you making money? Fuck yeah, we're making money. We're the most successful one in the business. Well, good. Don't worry about that. But I worry about that. I care if my people are happy. I care way more about making sure people around me are happy than I do about the success. We just happen that I also, I have an ego and I want to make sure we're the best and I'm competitive and I also want to be the best at the same time. But it's about finding those two different values. And when I started the job, I was just finding podcasts and I was just getting into this, and these values were just solidifying, and I always had this, like I say, but I was codifying it and coming to terms with it and finding language for these value systems that I have. And at the same time doing that, the value systems I had before of just make money at all costs, doesn't matter who you hurt, all that stuff, that keeps going lower and lower as these values are going higher and higher, and they're switching places. And I'm still in the same role, expecting to be that same person. And the shitty thing is I'm good at it, guys. I'm really fucking good at it. But it takes a lot out of me. Like, if I'm forced to go in there and we just need to make money and just make the ruthless call of what needs to do. I'm so good at separating the logic out and just being, hey, logically, this is the right call. But what sucks is I do that and I bring that up and I go, hey, logically, this is the right call. What's best for the business and making us more money. But that's not the right thing to do. This is going to have this, and this. Like, this is a bad call. We can't do that. But then they hear and go, oh, but that makes us okay. We're doing that. And it's like, fuck. Like, well, thanks. Like, I shouldn't have even brought it up. This isn't the best way. And I see the consequences further back of like, yeah, we can do this now. This is the easy fix here, but it's going to fucking bite us in the ass. But I don't have the freedom to say that. And I do at a certain point, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm being restricted. Like, I get amazing freedom. I can pretty much within our group of what affects us until it goes to that corporate level, I have entire freedom to make whatever call and have it listen to me. If I want to, if I put my foot down, I can have that. But because I'm in this position and I'm, the CEO's son, I can't use that all the time. I can't, just overstep people and step on toes. I have to use that very, very, restrictively, right? Like, every once in a while when it's a really big deal, that's when I can put my foot down and I can step up and I can veto people and I can say those things. But every time you do that, you lose a little bit of capital. And then sometimes you do that and you put your neck out and you're saying, I'm going to take on this big challenge. And I'm going to retrofit it. I'm going to overhaul this entire system. And then you have the people that were in the meeting completely take your knees out from under you. And you go in and, I don't know. It is tough. It is tough. And even I've already said more than I probably should have said on this. But that's the thing. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't care. Like, whose feelings am I hurting? Like, all the people around me, all my employees, I love them all. And they know I do. I hope they know that. And I think they do. And the people that are going to be upset with the things I have to say, I don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about me. They don't give a fuck about us. So why should I give a fuck about them? But yet, still, I'm tearing myself in two, trying to balance this and not, talk shit and not, be honest about what's going on, because it's not my place to say. I'm just, sitting here on the outside, but it is frustrating. And that's the thing. Like, I can do it. I can get up in the morning. It's tough. And then I go to work and you wouldn't know that I'm depressed and all this stuff. Like for those from, that 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., I can be 100% mask on. I am good. What do we need to do? Let's get this done. And nobody knows that I'm fucking dying inside, right? I can do that. And I'm not saying that's every day. Lately, it's been every day because of all these other confounding factors and COVID. Oh my God. But then it's so easy for everyone else to blame. Oh, you're going to be fine. You just feel this way because of COVID and all that. Like, once that gets better, but it hasn't been. That's not what it is. I know that. I've had these feelings since much before COVID. It is the actual systems itself, and it's the not matching up with my value system and forcing me to compromise myself every day. That's what kills me. That's what makes my stomach turn. I hate it. That is not for me. And I can do it, and I will do it for a long time. And I'm probably going to do it again with other companies. But I would so much rather build up my own company with my own people and treat people right, and know, because I know it's been proven. Look at people like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, and you can make a lot of money and treat people right along the way and put a hand back and help and just do everything from positivity. There's a negativity to capitalism and to corporate greed and to businesses of a certain size that just fall into this. And I can do that too. I've proved it. I'm amazingly good at that. I can play that game. I just don't enjoy playing that game. And if I'm going to play that game, why not? Why am I playing it for people that don't give a fuck about me? Right? That's my thing. It's not to do with the people, it's the system itself. Even the people within that larger system, they're not bad people either. And lots of them are great people. And I really enjoy those people, but you're within this system that's incentivized to cut people and to not care. You actually do yourself a disservice by having attachment to these people that are all these other cogs in the wheel, when if you want to move up this ladder, you can't care about them. You just got to care about the bottom line and doing what this person told you and brown nosing and all this stuff. It's just not for me. And that is why it's tough. And just it's kind of where I was going with that is I can do that. I can go in there and knowing that, I think what gets me through is knowing that, hey, I'm really good at this, and I can just treat this as if this is a game I'm playing. I can go in and, from this time to this time, I'm being this person, and this is who I am because this is what is expected of me. And I can still try and, as much as I can, bring my values of what I care into them and try and enforce that of accountability and all these things, right? Like, when things go wrong at work, I don't give a fuck, right? Like, a huge incident happens. As long as that driver or that person takes accountability and says, hey, I fucked up. I know why I fucked up. I feel awful about it. All right, well, let's move forward. What can we do? What can we learn? And I'm never get mad. Some people try and, weasel their way out of it and blame other people. Well, I didn't get trained in this and all that. Yeah. I got no time for you at that point. If you don't, so that is my way of trying to bring my values that from outside of work into work and building upon that. And I think we've done an amazing job. And that's why I'm so proud of this crew of people that we have specifically in GP here. It's so amazing. And it shows. This is what's so frustrating. Trying your best to make money and still, do all the things that are expected in a corporation, but with value and trying to treat people right along the way. It shows success and it keeps people around, and it is the right way forward, but that's not my call at the end of the day. But I am so proud of it. So proud of what we've done. It's amazing. I wish I could tell you guys, and I will eventually. I just can't right now. All the things that we went through these last 4 years, from having like my absolute leaning on person, like my right hand, second in command, getting a real bad car wreck that I am first on the scene to have to call his wife and fucking, like the jaws of life to get him out, like barely fucking survived, and to deal with that, and all the other circumstances go around that. That's a fucking wild one. Wait till you guys hear that story of, who was I ended up knowing the person that fucking hit him and grew up with him, and don't even get me started. But the PTSD that comes from that, I'd never felt that before. You go through something like that where you're in the hospital and you're hearing those moans, you don't know if someone's going to make it. You got to call her wife and hold her. At 6 a.m. on just another day where you're just getting your feet under you. You're 20, I think I must have been 24 at that point. I hadn't even been in that role a year, maybe 6-7 months. I'd been in this role where I'd come in and just thrown in feet first, and something like that happens. And that's just one thing. There's example after example of this, of just things I've been through. But again, I can't tell you guys these stories, even though I want to. And that's the biggest thing that you see of what also hurts me, is that a big piece of a podcast is just kind of letting people's windows into your daily life. So now work is, 60, 70% of every waking hour that I do is all work stuff. And now I can only talk to you guys about 30% of my life. Thankfully, 30% of my life is podcasting, listening to podcasts and playing with my dog. And I hope that that's interesting enough. I mean, that's what you guys are seeing because you're only getting 30% of me because 70% is tied to this that I can't talk about. But that's the thing where they say, oh, you're just trying to be lazy. You just want to get out of that so you can just, do what you enjoy, podcasting all day. No. If I could talk about work and be completely open like this, but I would do it in a heartbeat and it'd be part of it. And it wouldn't eat me away because I could at least have this catharsis of talking about it and giving my feelings on the comings and goings of it. But that could be finding a different job eventually, and maybe in a couple of years, maybe I'm doing something else, but it's so tempting. I fantasize about this every day. I tell you guys, I used to fantasize when I'd be at work about starting a podcast one day. And that's all I would fantasize about, these wacky scenarios that would come together where I'd be wearing a Joe Rogan t-shirt and I'd stop a bank robbery and I'd get on his, and then I'd be, just such an interesting guy for 3 hours with Joe Rogan that I'd start my own podcast and all this shit. Well, now what I fantasize about is just quitting my job and going to work at McDonald's, and then, or not McDonald's. I mean, that is one of them, but my biggest thing is to go to Rick Bronson's Comedy Hut in West Edmonton Mall and say, what do you need? Do you need somebody? Like, I can do anything here. You need me to run the business? I would love to. But if you need me to push broom or, bartend or whatever it is, I will do that because that's something I could talk about and I'd be in something I love, like comedy. Or if I could get a job, working for a local MMA promotion in Alberta, like just doing something that I care about, that I enjoy, that I want to bring forward, and I, care about bringing to fruition, care about the people involved, and then I can talk about it on here and it can be congruent and it can grow together. That's what I'm after. It's not that I'm just trying to be lazy and drop at everything. But if I did find one, say a job like, I throw the McDonald's one out there because then you can just, it opens you up to doing everything else you want to do because now you have time. If I'm flipping burgers compared to running a corporation, which is kind of the two comparisons of the workload. Now I can do some other things and I can plan more podcasts and I can do this. It's tough to watch through only work. I've watched my dream of my podcast stall and not move forward at the rate it was and move backwards, right? Like the YouTube channel of not getting the uploads there, of not being able to do these solo episodes weekly, of not being able to talk about work, not being able to, that is painful. That hurts to watch something you care about so deeply, just, not sputter because it is moving forward. I'm doing amazing interviews all the time and I'm getting better and I'm getting more comfortable and I'm finding these connections and things are falling into place, but it's just, I know I could do more and I know what it could be. And I know all these other things that I want to do that I'm putting on hold. I want to, join a jiu-jitsu gym and do that every day. And I want to do all these other things. I want to, it's just some I can't even talk to you guys about yet because it's just too early, but, yeah, that's just what I've been going through. And I want to be honest with you guys about it, but it's tough because like I said, and I hope that allows you guys a little bit of insight without me saying too much into how I'm thinking about it. And, yeah. What else did I want to talk about? That's kind of the a bit of the negative side, but yeah, within that's been amazing, right? Like that interview with Phil Troyer that I did, the ultra marathon runner. That was so much fun. Loved the conversation we had. Like I enjoyed it so much. Was everything I hoped for and more. And then on the Monday of that long weekend, he took me out to south of town where all these trails are. Met up with another guy, and we did a trail run. I was just going to do the first 10K with him because I think he was running like 40. But then just was having so much fun. Oh, I'll come for another couple kilometers. And he said, oh yeah, I'll add this loop, and then I'll go for a couple other ones, right? And just ended up doing like 10 miles with him. It was so much fun. I think we might even go out tomorrow, but just like connections like that of within all this stuff and the hurricane of dog and work and podcast and all this stuff and just depression and trying to hold myself together. There's these amazing points of, just an amazing run and a new friend and amazing conversation. And yeah. And that's the other part too, is just knowing that I'm that depressed and to have that worked well. But then I've done other interviews, at 5:30, 6 o'clock after work of going to work and feeling all those feelings of putting that mask on all day and what that drains you. And just, you leave work and you're just so low, so just deflated and depleted. Like that cup I was talking about, what fills your cup, what empties your cup. I may be very good at work and I may be very effective and it might make the company a lot of money, but it just empties me out. So now I go in and I know I have a podcast at 6 and I'm coming and I just have nothing in me. and I'm empty. And I don't think it comes across. I don't think you guys will be able to pick it up unless I said something, but I just know I'm not there. And then and even still, I still enjoy it. And I'm always worried that it's going to carry into the podcast itself and I'm not going to enjoy the podcast. It carries in just as much as I'm not on my game as much, but I still enjoy it so much. But then after the fact, all I'm doing is beating myself up about you couldn't find the right word there. You stalled. You had an awkward transition. That you're just beating yourself up because you know you're not on point. So you have all these little small mistakes that nobody would notice, but I'm just eating away at myself from it. And then it spirals, right? Like, and then you do that all night and then another night of no sleep and another night of no sleep. So I don't know. I remember the last time I got a full sleep, like 3 weeks ago. When did we get this dog? I don't know. And that's clearly a part of this and what's also adding to everyone knows what sleep deprivation can be. But yeah, it's just about getting through it. But at the end of the day, I know that the only way forward is just to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know what changes need to be made if I want this to work, if this balance needs to be made. And I've known this for a while and I've just been too busy and I call it lazy, but it's not. I call it lazy because I want to be hard on myself, but it's just this where you get home and you just have nothing. Like you just want to lay on the floor, not even on a bed. And I do that. I'll just lay face down on the floor and just like, and how I know I should be writing out these balance of ways that I can take a step back from work or just concentrate on the areas that they need me and maybe have somebody else take some roles on and balance it out. And that is something I'm going to do, but it's so tough to find the time just to do that because I got so many other things to do. And if I don't have a podcast I got to record or edit or put up for that day, I just need that day. And I know, okay, this is my one day in this week that I get this couple hours and it's barely a couple hours. So you get home from work 5:30, you eat something, you play with the dog, you take her out and stuff. And then you got to be in bed again by 8 o'clock to try and fall asleep by 10. Cause you just got to get some sleep. Like you just have no hours of time in the day to do what you want. And I feel my biggest motivation is freedom from people telling me what to do, freedom from having to be places, freedom from not being able to do exactly what I want to do. And that is what's so tempting about hearing these people on podcasts talk about the freedom it's brought them. And they can talk about whatever they want and be whatever they want and do whatever they want. And nobody ever tells them that is what I want. But it feels like right now I've never been more trapped in my life. And adding in this podcast, which is a outlet to freedom eventually, has just taken away all that little tiny bit of freedom I had before I started the podcast of just, those couple hours after work just to reset enough to go back and do it and again the next day. Now it fills that up too. And that's what I'm struggling with is if I quit the podcast tomorrow, which I'm never going to do. And when people bring that up to me as a solution to this, it just fries my ass. I want to tell them to go fuck himself. But I could do that, and I'm sure I could go back, and I would go back to the relative unhappiness I was before, because I wasn't happy doing this before. Like podcast is what's brought me happiness. The not matching up with the role and the value system that it brings, and the lack of control, and you can put as much effort in as you want, and through these things that are completely outside of your control, you can fail or just not reach the heights that you want to. That was happening much before I started the podcast. But the fact is, if I quit all this and all the extras, I would have more time to, reset and go back into it. And, I don't know how many CEOs of companies have a podcast on the side or whatever on the side that they do that fills up all their extra time. And, I say that fills up extra time, but it when I'm actually recording this is the happiest I am. It's the only happy time I have. It feels like sometimes, but then the editing and the trying to get guests and the social media posts, blah, 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 blah. If I could have someone run the social media for it and just share the shit, would I be happy? Because then it just sucks you into the social media stuff, and you get it's just negativity. And I hate getting pulled into that. And I usually can just disconnect from it. But now I need to, because it is so noticeable that you need to be posting a lot on the page to keep the downloads coming. If you slack off, it slacks off, right? People aren't listening. It sucks. I wish it wasn't like that, but hey, that if you want this thing to grow, that's what you got to do. And I know that, but that unfortunately, it's hard not to get caught into the scrolling and the finding stuff to share and that kind of thing. So that's that's a little tough, and that'd be something nice too. But I know exactly what the solution is to that, is to find something now on social media if that's a piece that I need. So what else? Speaking of social media, there's been lots of fun things on there. A lot of things have been frustrating me. There's been the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm watching how people share that and how people have no idea, even the very basics of it, how it goes in. And then you see either one of two things. Either they have no idea what the whole conflict's about, what the history of it, that it's complex, and they just share what their group shares. And I see so many of my friends, all my university friends, that are just indoctrinated and brainwashed by all that bullshit. There's, I'm a good person if I share this. All the other people that always share this shit are sharing that. I'm going to share this with no idea, no compromise, no idea the nuance of it. And then to then see the natural reaction of people don't understand. I say people because I'm talking to myself. I didn't understand how deep-seated anti-Semitism was. I didn't know what a problem it was, how far back it goes, how ingrained into entire societies and religions it is, until the last 4 or 5 years. Growing up, I didn't even know what Jewish people were. Didn't really even know it was a religion. Kind of thought it was like a race. And now understanding more of it. Anyway, I just thought that the Jews were these people that were in Germany that got put in camps during World War II. That was the extent of my knowledge. That's all I knew. And I thought, oh, that's tragic. And it just didn't make any sense, because why would some guy go after these random people? Like, they don't seem like they were doing anything. Like, never made sense to me. I didn't recognize until I started listening to people like the Weinstein brothers, Lex Friedman, so many of my heroes all come from the Jewish, whether they're practicing or not, all have remnants of what made them who they are from the Jewish faith, and how amazing of a religion it is, and what it can be. It also, just like any other religion, can be. It's all in how it's enacted, and it's all within the people that are translating the message. But I think, from my own estimation of what I can pull together from it, is it's the emphasis on being able to question. And there's this thing called the Torah where, and again, I don't know, fuck all. So this could be completely wrong. And if I offend anybody, I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard to get a rabbi on so I can ask all these questions and clarify these thoughts that I've had around the religion, because I've been so obsessed with it at some point, but it's been tough. Actually, just recently, I might have stumbled upon something. There might be something coming down the pipe. We'll see. Anywho, there's this thing called the Torah, which is like this set of rules and these arguments and these logics that they follow that has been written and passed down over generations and generations. And there's the oral Torah, where you discuss it and you have these arguments of, workarounds and logical things that circumvent these rules in a way that still hold up to the spirit of the rule itself. And I feel like there's something to do with that questioning that allows them a certain framework within their mind for solving problems and for being capable in the world. I feel like it's extremely attributable, and you can see, people always get their conspiracy theory hats on and go, well, Jews control the banks and control the world and all this stuff, and look at all the Nobel Prize, and there's Jewish people are 1% of the population. They've won 30% of the Nobel Prizes and all this stuff, and they think it's some big conspiracy. And I mean, I guess in a way, my argument, what I'm trying to argue, it's not a conspiracy, but it's way out in the open. They have a system that's their religion that teaches them to think in a certain way that makes them extremely effective when they go out into the world. That's not a bad thing. Why? And that naturally makes people want to attack it, because capability is scary to people that don't earn their points of power. If you're one of these social justice people that have just built up your power upon tearing other people down, have never actually done anything in your life, you don't want truly capable people. That scares you. That is what shines a light on the farce that is your power, that you've just gained through no means of no accomplishment, no doing anything, no solving any problems of your own. Anyways, you take that over hundreds of years, and they've made a lot of enemies, and they've stuck to their own, and there's so much historical bias that goes back. But I didn't realize how much hatred there was for Jewish people and for the Jewish faith and for all this, and how in-baked it is. So when I saw all this stuff come up with the Israel-Palestine conflict, I agree. I think that for so many years, because of Israel's been such a strong state and has such ties to America and all these things, and both wings of the American government and governments all over the world, that there's been a very twisted narrative of what happens in the Israel-Palestine conflict. And it's been very much shown from one lens for a long time. And that's great that that's changing. It's great that people are standing up for Palestine and saying, hey, this is not one-sided. This is atrocities happening all over the place there. And Israel is by no means innocent. They do some awful shit. And this is where you need to separate the Jewish religion, Jewish people from Israel, the state, and the government of that state. And people don't seem to understand that, but you have to be careful. And it's so funny to see these arguments. I know there was, when there was this Stop Asian Hate movement, there's people rightfully saying, like, with what's going on right now in the CCP and them, having a genocide against Uyghur Muslims and covering up the COVID epidemic, that it clearly came from a lab, which I've been saying for fucking years. Since I started this podcast, I've been saying this shit. Go fuck yourself, everybody else. I'm being proven right on so much of this COVID stuff right now, and people are still digging their heels in so much. Anyway, sorry, where I was going with that is there's so much going on with the CCP, and people rightfully so finally waking up to the evil that is the Chinese government and the Communist Party, and it's the biggest threat that we all have. Everyone, Russia. Russia's a fucking 4-year-old child compared to what China is and the threat that they pose to us. And every time people say, Russia's got these social media agencies, which they do, and so does America, so does every country's doing this. It's an easy tack, but then you can't do it back to China because they don't have this wide open social media. They have it all locked down and surveilled and stuff, so you can't do the tactics back. But you think that Russia's influencing our elections and Russians influencing our social media and getting people angry at each other and trying to feed the divide? You don't think China's doing it 10 times more? Anyways, but then what I notice is, so that is real. So that now we have two real things. Stop Asian hate, of course. Like, anybody hating anybody for any of those reasons, we do need to step up. We need to be vocal. We need to but we also need to separate that from the party. You can be, that doesn't mean you are hateful of Asians to be critical of the CCP and the Communist Party. That is not the same thing, right? And then same thing with this Israel-Palestine. You can be critical of Israel and the things they are doing and the atrocities that they are committing, and still separate that from Jewish people. Unfortunately, there is deep-seated hatred for and anti-Semitism out there in the world. And you have to be cognizant of that. And I felt like that was the thing that was being missed by these people that don't even understand anything to do with this conflict or just sharing something. You are feeding in to this anti-Semitic rhetoric. You need to stand with Palestine, but you need to be nuanced in it and talk about it and show that you understand this, because if not, that's the natural next progression. And then you see something else, which absolutely blew my mind. And one of my actually close friends who I really enjoy and really is read up on this subject and knows the history and what goes into it. And he has his own biases, fair, like we all do. And I was really proud of him because he was the person that was sharing things and adding nuance to it and being that person. But they shared this one meme, right? And memes, I love memes, but I also hate memes because it just cheapens so much shit and gives people this, I feel like memes make everybody think they have 40 extra IQ points because they can laugh at a meme or get a meme, but it takes away so much nuance and is exactly the polar opposite of what we need to be doing. And a good meme can do that too. And it can, pull people together and bridge gaps, but for the most part, they don't. Anyways, the meme that was shared was something like how, shit, now I'm forgetting it all together, but in a way it was saying that it was saying that people that were claiming anti-Semitism for this were only doing that because they were anti-Hamas or whatever it was. They were almost making light of the fact that people were trying to differentiate between Israel and the Jewish people around the world. And you see these people, and it's amazing to me to see that these news sites aren't there's nobody, if you don't follow the right people, nobody's speaking about the absolutely massive Jewish hatred out there being enacted in the streets, violence all over the place. You see it every once in a while with these certain people, and usually it's Jewish people that unfortunately are the only ones speaking up for themselves, because there's also a big piece of the Jewish faith, and I'm going to butcher this, but after World War II and the Holocaust, they have some sort of saying. It's not like, we will never forget, I think it is. And that is not just a saying, but it's a mantra, and it's a mindset, and we will never let this happen to us again. Over history, this has happened time and time and time again, where Jewish people have become the scapegoats, have been absolutely ostracized and kicked around and all this. And they said, we are never going to be this again. And obviously that makes them biased, and it makes it hard for Jewish people to see the Israel-Palestine conflict not completely biased the other way, where they can't see any of the wrongs that Israel is doing. Just like anybody that maybe has ties to the Muslim faith and knows the atrocities that has happened over the last, 50, 60, 70 years in that area, against Palestine, against Palestinians, and they can't see any of the harm that Hamas is doing, and can't, see any of the other side of it. And it's very unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what I say all the time, is the only thing that wins in this is love and compassion and seeing for the other side. That's why these people that are, whether it's the Israel or the Palestine side, that is completely blinded to the atrocities of the other side, that will never get better. You need to be open. You need to call out your own. You need to say, hey, yeah, I agree that they're doing some fuck shit, but so are we, right? This is in everything. It's left versus right. It's all these things. It's snowflakes and all this shit. If you can't leave enough compassion and you can't leave a door open for them to change their mind and come to a better position as you see it, you will never make change. And we see that so much in all these things of just closing these doors to letting people have a change of opinion. Again, I say that, and then I'm, railing against all these politicians, not even politicians, definitely the politicians, because they knew better, but the news sites that were just demonizing and dragging these people like poor Brett and Heather Weinstein from the Dark Horse podcast, who I've talked about a million times on this, who have been just on the cutting edge of bringing real fucking science to this COVID shit. The only people, and I've been saying, hey, this lab leak hypothesis, it looks really, really scary. And that this is, like the way we said, way more likely. And they've been saying this for months and months and months and months. And these same reporters that were dragging through the mud now are now coming around and saying that, oh, it was the anti-Trump and all this stuff that made us not look at it. Anything Trump touched was just gilded with this color that now you cannot touch it. It is so radioactive. The fact that people are that weak-minded that they can let something like that, a brain parasite, into them, so that affects their cognitive functions that badly, how can they lead a country? And it's been caught on hot mics where they said, there's actual evidence of them saying Trump is the reason that we are coming with certain strategies and holding it, because they wanted to get him out of office. But now we're dealing with it. Now America's all back to normal because they luckily have a state system where Texas, Florida, South Carolina, all these places, Georgia, can stay open and say, fuck you guys, this is not the right call. We don't want to go with you. That doesn't match the science. This is what the science says. We're going to be smart in these ways. We're going to close this down, but leave this open, and we're going to let it up to everybody. And when the numbers get bad, we'll tell people, hey, and forest fire. So now there's forest fire risk. Forest fire risk is high. Do we say everyone lock in your house because there's forest fire risk? No, we say, hey, forest fire risk is high right now. Maybe don't do this, this, and this. Maybe we have to put a quad ban on. Maybe we have to do this, but you're still leaving it up to the people of letting them make the decision. That is what should have been done here. But because they couldn't do it and they had to treat it as if this is Ebola, and that, if you leave your house, you are going to die, and using all this death rhetoric that totally hijacks everybody's thinking and puts you into this place where you cannot think clearly, and you just go nuts, and you see all these consequences of it. And they're stuck because we have no brave souls that are willing to be the first against the wall and say, hey, we can try something else. We don't need to just do lockdowns of vaccines. It's the only two options. There's 90 other options that you can read. You can invest in ICU beds. You can do rapid testing. You can do a million other things. There's so many other strategies they can take, but because they've already dug their heels in so far and pigeonholed themselves that this isn't political, this is scientific, this is the only method, this is the only way forward, even though there's clear examples of it with months and months of data that show that there's better options out there. We are still stuck in it. And then they come out with this plan and said, oh, you know what? Hey, we can have summer, but you guys all have to it's on you guys. If vaccination numbers hit this, if you do this. No, that is not the choice. Still get vaccinated. Go get vaccinated. Everybody get vaccinated. But look into it, find those risks, and find what you think weigh the risk of what you really think the risk of getting COVID is, which to me, the fact that I'm so sure it came from a lab and that there was gain of function testing going on with this disease and we've never had that before in nature and we don't know what that could look like, that worries me. That is something that I would really want to protect myself against. Not that I think this is a disease that's killing everybody. It's not that much. It's a bad cold. If you have some real issues, and that's the thing, you can never know how healthy you are. These underlying issues are underlying for a reason. You don't know you have them. You could have a fucking blood vessel that is just a hair's breadth away from blowing in your heart, and a little bit of added pressures from a disease like this that has been fucked with in ways we still do not understand and can't understand because there's fucking social justice warriors that say it's racist to say it came from a lab. You can't say that. That's racist. Fuck you. You have blood on your hands now because you prevented with your fucking rhetoric of, equality and all this shit. You've now prevented us from doing real science. You've now put us behind the 8 ball where we could have been investigating this from the fact that we know it's from a lab now. It changed the facts so much, but we're now 10 months too late. Whereas if we would have held fast to real science and actually followed the followed the facts and the science instead of letting politics get in the fucking way of it, we'd be so much farther off and we'd be so much better off than this. And, China's got to be accountable. They were hiding this purposefully and disappearing journalists and scientists that were saying this shit. Like, that cannot come out without a cost, right? And now, stop Asian hate for sure. Don't take this out on Asian people. Obviously, I don't even know why this has to be said. It's so fucking obvious. But yeah, China as a whole, the Chinese government is fucking scary and they do some scary shit. And they've clearly shown the world, if you're listening, that they are not to be trusted and that they do not play nicely and they are not playing the same game that everybody else is playing. The entire world, minus a few countries, is at least playing this game. They're playing it dirty and it's a dirty game, and it is. And everybody knows that. And that's a natural. Just like I said, I'm frustrated at work because it's not bad people, but you're working within a dirty world. It's a dirty system where money is the only option and power and all this stuff. It's the same thing with politics. It's the same things with these global geopolitical games that are being played. It's a bad system that has bad incentives, that is compromising anybody that tries to hop into it, make a change, just gets compromised, either gets booted out or gets held down until they leave on their own accord if you're not willing to compromise and go to that place. But we need to ask for something better. We need to ask for something better. We cannot go on with these types of leaders. Fuck, is that a leader? Can anybody point me to one good leader? Fucking Ron DeSantis down in Florida, the governor. He's actually been pretty good through this and has been, at least honest with the people and says what it is and stands by it. Everyone's always blaming, like everybody in Alberta, oh, it's Jason Kenney. Fuck you. It's every fucking governor, every politician in all of Canada is fucked right now. If you haven't signed a letter or firmly put yourself at risk, we talk about people being brave. That'd be brave. If you're going to stand up and say, hey, I don't agree with what's going on, and I know it's not going to make a change because everybody else is doing the same thing, and there's this, nobody can stand up kind of rule. But if you're not one of those people that has at least risked it or done something like this where you come out and say, hey, I don't agree, and I haven't agreed from the start, and I've been vocal about this, and now things are starting to come out where, rubber's meeting the road and you were wrong and I was right. Well, why are we still listening to you? Why are you still making the calls? Why are you still trying to drag it over our heads like it's our fault that all this decision making and absolute monkey show of handling this pandemic is now on our heads? And it's, oh no, you guys got to get vaccinated and then you can have your stuff back because it's all on you because you guys haven't been following the rules. Every time they say you haven't followed, fuck you and fuck your rules. That's what's making people hide and lie. And now you say, oh, if you're a close contact, you have to isolate for 30 days. We had an employee who said he was a close contact. He was going to have to isolate for 30 days total. So he said, I'm just going to go try and get it. I'm going to, I think I know a couple kids at the school. I'm just going to go and try and get it. I said, well, don't do that. But that's what you're leaving me in. So he knows if I go get it, maybe I got it for 10 days and then I can come back to work. If I don't, I'm out for 30. You think putting rules in place, being that draconian, trying to lock people down and hold people, that creates anything but distrust and breaking of the rules? You think though those people that were breaking the rules 9 months ago that were leaving GP in mass exodus to go over to BC to use the gyms and go to restaurants because they're open. You think those people are just magically following all these rules now? You think they've gotten more incentivized to listen to you after you've been proven wrong? You think magically people are going to listen to you more when you've done nothing to prove to us that you've changed your tack or gotten any more better information, or have gotten these people that got it so wrong and actually held us back from the real information and were preventing and demonizing the people that were right? You haven't got them out. They're still at your news organizations. They're still on Twitter. They're leaving CNN to go work for Biden. They're leaving Biden to go work for CNN. It's so out there in the open and nobody is calling shit to it. Well, have fun in a couple of years, because you are signing your own death warrant. You're nailing your own coffin shut. People do not trust you. And they're not going to, and they shouldn't trust you. There's no reason to trust them. But to say, oh, it's Jason Kennedy. If we would have had, Jagmeet Singh in there, or whoever, Rachel Notley, the same shit would have happened, because they're all compromised. They're all just taking this direction from somebody else, and they don't want to shake it up. They don't want to, this is what we're doing. Oh, how can you get mad that it's one party over the other party when the entire country, to a T, where Alberta's supposed to be the one bastion of kind of, hey, we buck the trend, we're locked down harder than anybody else. There's not one brave soul in this entire fucking country that's doing what's right and trying something different. We're all just letting our kids' mental health go to shit, our kids' socialization go to shit, all these dreams that people have, all these livelihoods, all these things that people are, we're just letting them crumble and fall away and inflating. Just print money. Let's go. Fucking print some more. Do you understand inflation? That takes away. So now you are trying all this hard to make sure that, people of color are not affected. You know who is most affected by inflation? The worst off of our community. The people that are struggling so hard, they get hit by this. All these decisions that are made are all going to be paid for on the backs of our most downtrodden. And it's these progressive people that are trying to fight for it, and that are saying that, oh, you're a bad person because you just won't just follow these rules and just stay home and not stop kicking up a fuss. You're a bad person. No, you're a bad person. You are the one that's making this whole pandemic so that you can feel safe, even though there's nothing. We are safe, and you should the fear has been ramped up to 42 out of 10, right? We are so scared of something that we should not be scared of. And the downhill health effects of that are still yet to be shown. The downhill financial effects of this, the economic effects, the fact that we just have bubbles on bubbles. So now you drop interest rates right down to zero, and our housing market is so fucked. When I look at the housing market right now, I go, you are fucked. They're getting people into houses they can't afford. We've seen this before. We saw it leading up to 2008. I don't know why they think it's going to be any different. There's these huge financial bubbles being built by these companies that they can throw billions of dollars at these companies that are just I can't remember the acronym for them, but it's some sort of blah, blah, blah vehicle company where they can just raise all this capital from all these people because they're betting on a name of just this person that just has a name and a reputation, that they're going to turn this into something when there's actually so you're investing millions and millions of dollars into this company that actually does nothing, and you're just saying we're going to make it a company at some point in the future. This is exactly the type of financial fuckery that creates meltdowns, and then you need bailouts. And we just went through it. We haven't even felt the effects of all these bailouts. And the little guy, the worse off. This isn't going to affect me. I'm not upset. I'm going to come out of this fine, right? This is not me I have to worry about. Inflation is not going to really harm me. It harms all of us, but it's not going to harm me disproportionately. I'm going to be just as well off, right? The people that are struggling to make ends meet every day, they are not. And you need to understand that. And for you to feel like you're a good person because you reposted this thing about, following the science and all this, fuck you. You haven't looked at any science. If that's the science you're following, you are nothing. You are a lemur. You are a lemon or a lemur. I don't know. Whatever those fucking things that follow things are. I don't know. I get frustrated with this stuff because I feel like I've been saying this for months and nobody's listening. And it's I don't know if I just need a little pat on the back, hey, you're right on that one. You're right on that one. Because I'm doing it to myself. Okay, proved right there again. Oh yeah, no, it is. Oh, you guys are finally getting on board with the lab leak theory. Oh, great. Oh, well, we're starting to see companies come out with rapid testing. Oh, that sure works like a charm. Hey, all these big businesses that rely on this and are superseding the government because they won't do it. Well, that seemed like a good idea. Maybe we could invest in that 9 months ago. You fucking put 10, 15, 20, probably $50 million into telling ads that tell people to stay home. You know where that $50 million could have went to? ICU fucking beds, you idiots. Like, what game are we even playing? Like, is this even real life? It seems like this is not even real life. Like, there's no way people can be this stupid. Like, how does Justin Trudeau still have a job right now? That he's at the peak of all this, in charge of all this, and this is the solutions that he's carried forward, and this is the leadership. This is the person that's supposed to, has he come out and made us all feel unified and together and come together? Like, had any sort of speech that has any hint of leadership within it? No. That's terrible. We need to expect better. And something's got to change, because the only people that are going to get put up for election again are going to be these same fucking people from the same organization. And I don't know what solves that. Somebody's got to come out from some sort of grassroots movement and get the people behind them. That's the only way this changes. And then you only have a little bit amount of time, and it's not perfect from there. Even if you were to get somebody in, there's so much forces at work that prevent you from making long-term changes, like bringing in ranked choice voting and things like that would prevent this issue going forward. But I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess. In the world of sports, yeah, it was tough seeing the Oilers come out of it, but I've been telling you, I wasn't, again, I said earlier is because of, the depression and just not really feeling up to it. I wasn't really into that one hockey game, and then after that, watching the way that they looked after game 2 and just towards the end of it, seemed like they'd almost given up, and I didn't have a lot of hopes, and I kind of figured they were going to get swept. But even saying all that, I loved the Oilers this season. I love that team. I love every fucking player on that team. Like I saw some people blame Mike Smith. What the fuck? Come on. Like, be better. He was amazing for us. And you can't ask anything more of a goalie. If you have anything to say about Mike Smith, go jump in a lake. You're fucking brutal. Then you see people going after Ethan Bear. And Ethan Bear is a young player playing so far beyond what we should be expecting of him, and thrown into situations, and he's learning. He needs that time. Yeah, he didn't play very well, but oh well. What do you expect? He's a fucking young kid on a defensively suspect Oiler team that has been defensively suspect for 25 years. Like, what do you expect out of him? And the racism and that coming out, that's fucking bullshit. You never need to do that. A young kid doesn't ever need to see that. The only thing worse than the racism going at Ethan Bear was how choppy that response video was. I'm sorry, Ethan. That was the worst reading of a stat. Like, I loved the message of it, but just how poorly executed that was. Like, they couldn't do a redo. You couldn't try that again. Like, read it again. They had to throw it out like that. Like, fuck, come on, Oilers. Be better. I don't even blame Ethan Bear for that. That's not his fault. He's there just reading off a script, obviously. But, like, fucking give him another crack at it. Make it so it doesn't sound so terrible. Just fucking, like, he would say 2 words and then read another 2 words, and it took forever. And I was like, oh man, like just such an amazing movement. Everybody coming together, the whole hockey world saying, hey, we're standing up. Like, fuck this racism shit. We're over this. We're too done for it. And this is going to be the message that punches through. And I was like, oh, maybe do a little bit better. Read it again. Give him a second try, third try. He's an NHL player. He's not fucking reading for a living. He's not doing spelling bees. Clearly he's not going to be all that good at it, but 1 try, 2 tries, 3 tries, who knows? Maybe that was his 10th try and that was the best he can do and he didn't want to do it anymore. That could be true as well. But just when I read it, I was like, oh man, I was excited for it. Like, hey, this is good. This is a good message. They're doing it right. They're not overdoing it. And it was just kind of flopped. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny to watch. Not the situation at all. I thought, I agreed that what are you expecting out of this kid? And even still, why are you going to race it? That doesn't affect nothing. But it's the internet. This is the other part of it too, is now I feel like we created more, like, the racism that Ethan Bear was seeing. Probably some of it was real racism, but then there's another huge contingent. You can't deny this. It's just the internet. Like, when you stream something, if you stream hockey, fights, anything that shouldn't be streaming, we'll say illegally streaming anything, there's always a chat. If you look at that chat, it is just N-word, 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 just all this stuff, because it's what do you call it? Not ambivalent. You don't know who you are. There's no picture of you. You are Anonymous. Jesus Christ. I can talk for an hour and a half and then I forget the word anonymous. I don't know what goes on in this brain. Anyways, it's just anonymous, and people just they go through their life and they have no power, and they have no power at their job, and they get yelled at and stuff, and they just want to cause pain in others, hurt people. And what is the one surefire way? Go to something that you know is going to cut deep, like racism. That's why people throw it out. And when you show a reaction that, hey, that is exactly what they wanted, was to see a press conference and all these people move over these fucking losers online that just probably aren't even racist, probably just wanted to get the biggest effect they could. They just wanted to cause and inflict pain. That's what it is. But then when we react this way, I wonder, I don't think that, I don't have any issue with doing it, because I think you have to stand up and you have to say that. But I wonder if that reaction is exactly what they're looking for. If we haven't created more, I wouldn't even call that race, like whatever that is that subset of the actual racism that clearly exists and that we need to stamp out. And then there's just the shitty, like there's probably, how many of those are 12-year-olds? That's my question too, with a egg emoji that do this shit. And I wish there was a better way, but I don't know. I wonder how much we create people pushing back against us because they know it'll get a reaction. That's all they're after. They don't actually care about these people or the racism or any of this. They just know that is a tool I can use to get the reaction I want. And that reaction is filling a void that I can't fill anywhere else. But it was still tough to see my Oilers lose. You never want to see them get swept, especially when my girlfriend's a Jets fan and we have to go to war over it. But I'm glad it's over. I get to just enjoy some hockey now. UFC has been amazing. Every weekend, I can't even tell you guys how excited I am to be a UFC fan lately. Every card is unbelievable. And then this weekend, like tonight, there's no UFC, and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. It's the first Saturday night without a UFC card in weeks. And with how amazing they've been, and there's not a weekend I can miss. And it's been awesome. Maybe I'll give you, let's see who's coming up on the next weekend's card. Oh, so Jairzinho Rosenstruik versus Augusto Sakai, heavyweight bout. You never want to look away from the heavyweights. It's the number 6 and number 9 ranked heavyweight in the world. So top guys, top 10 in the world. Heavyweights, always going to be exciting. Two big strikers. Augusto Sakai is making a name for himself, has been, flying up the rankings to number 9. He was relatively unknown a couple of years ago when I entered the sport. I don't even think he was in the UFC. And Jairzinho Rosenstruik pretty much beats everybody that isn't, Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic. He's been that boogeyman that just can't break the elite and will probably be there eventually. Then the second fight, Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura. Walt Harris, amazing guy. He's the number 8 heavyweight in the world, and Marcin Tybura is 11. So you got 4 of the top 11 guys in the heavyweight division of the world all fighting. That's always exciting. Walt Harris, you've probably heard of him. He had that heartbreaking story 2 years ago now. His stepdaughter was abducted and murdered, and they couldn't find her. And there was a huge push within the MMA community to try and find her. And it was a very sad situation. But he came out stronger, and is just an amazing human. I think he's from Texas, and he just has such a strong mind and strong values, and fights for her, and was able to come out, and it's just a real fan favorite. He's fighting. That's an awesome one. Oh, Roman Dolidze. He's, I think, a Georgian, and he's just an absolute destroyer versus Laureano Staropoli, another up-and-comer. Santiago Ponzinibbio was absolutely destroying. He was on a huge win streak, I think, for a while, and then lost his last one maybe, and he's coming up against Miguel Baeza. I don't know who that guy is. Tom Breeze, Antonio Arroyo, that should be good. What's on the prelims? There's another big fight. Oh, I know who's on the prelims. Let's go. That's why I wanted to go over this. So start of the card, Jordan Leavitt. His name is the Monkey King. He's the start of the prelims, the first fight of the night. So you're going to have to hop in early to see this one. Don't miss this one. He's called the Monkey King. He's only been in the UFC for one fight. He enters the fight, maybe a couple feints, and locks this guy up, gets him up in the air, and has him in his arms, and he's by Buddy's corner. So he does this little monkey walk all the way over to his side of the corner, frames up with his forearm on the guy's face like this, and then slams him on the ground and knocks him out in like 30 seconds. Walks him over to his corner, and it was such a funny little monkey walk. The guy he's carrying is kind of laughing as he's getting carried over, and then just absolutely destroys it. Can't have a better UFC debut than that. His name's the Monkey King. He looks like a monkey. He is a weirdo like a monkey. I'm super excited for this kid. Don't miss him. He's fighting. We got a couple female fights. Should be pretty good. Francisco Trinaldo, he's always exciting. And then we get to my boy Tanner Boser. heavyweight out of Edmonton, Alberta. Let's fucking go. One of the most exciting guys to come out of Canada in the UFC the last couple of years. Good down-home Alberta boy. Doesn't really give a fuck about the fame and the glitz and the glamour. The best interviews that he does are the ones where it's people that don't really give a fuck about the sport, and he just wants it. He is one of those guys where you would have a beer with on the weekend, wouldn't have anyone. He is the true Albertan. Like, I can't speak enough to what this kid is and who he is and the values that he has. And then he also happens to be an amazing fighter and, purports himself amazingly well for a Canadian and Albertan. And he just came off a really tough fight with Andre Orlovsky, who has fought fucking like 900 fights in the UFC, has been there forever, fought Brendan Shaw back in the day, like just an absolute killer and is with a new camp. And that was a tough go, but he's coming back against Ilir Latifi, one of my favorite light heavyweights. He was always just this little meatball at light heavyweight. Now he's up in heavyweight, and he is from Sweden, maybe? Or maybe, I think he trains in Sweden with Gustafsson and them, and he is just a destroyer, a mauler, and I can't wait to, I don't know if this is his second fight at heavyweight or his first, but he is going to be, like, that is a tough fight, like, for Boser. There's easier fights out there than Ilir Latifi, that's for sure, but, I think this fight is probably for a ranking. I just said the 4 of the top 11 guys in the heavyweight division are fighting tonight. There's going to be movement in those rankings. And this fight, Ilir Latifi and Tanner Boser are both just on the cusp of getting that 15 spot. So I think with a win, we could see a good old fucking Canadian in the top 15 of the heavyweight division. I don't know if there's ever been a Canadian in the top 15 of the heavyweight division in the UFC. I shouldn't say that. I feel like there is. Oh, there definitely was. Buddy. Oh, what was Buddy's name? He just left the UFC and went to one championship as the first Canadian heavyweight champion of one. He just won. Arjun Buller. Is he he might even be an Edmonton guy. No, maybe he's BC. I think he's from BC. But I just got to stop and give a huge shout out to Arjun Buller for winning the one championship. That's huge. The first Indian champion as well. He's from India and just awesome, represents for his people. From everyone you hear, Tom was just an amazing guy. So proud that he's able to do that. Good for him. I love rooting for Canadians, and I love the sport so much, and when I see my people do good things, it really gets me fired up. Montana De La Rosa, Ariana Lipsky, underrated fight. That one's going to be a good one. And then Makwan Amirkhani and Nate Landwehr. That's the last fight on the prelims. You won't regret that one. It's a featherweight bout. Those little guys always stand and bang. Amirkhani has been one of the biggest prospects coming up in featherweight for a long time. Featherweight might be the deepest division in the UFC. And this Nate Landwehr in his last fight, he looked like he's got all the skills to be a champion too. So go check those out. I'll probably release this Thursday or Friday, so it'll probably be coming out if you listen to it. This should be the following Saturday that this comes out. And then after that, it's almost the McGregor card, and I'm sure I'll probably have to do a whole episode just breaking that one down too. But hope you enjoyed that one. Going to do another trail run with Phil. What else did I know? Talking about platform. Yeah. So I also released an episode on Friday of last week with Angelo Isidoro. He is the director of the Free Speech Club at the UBC and a couple other things. I had a bunch of people come after me for platforming this guy. I had some feelings about it. So the big knocks against him is that they don't like him because he has brought speakers to speak that they disagree with at the university, which is a pretty weak fucking thing to go after somebody for. Like, oh, you're not gonna go after the ideas that they're saying, like what they're talking about. You don't have any critiques for them, just that they have different ideas than you. And just been annoying. And then also on top of that, even if he was this hateful person that was racist and all these things and right wing and a bigot, I can't think of a better person for him to talk to than myself, who has no hate in their heart, love for everybody, and wants everybody to leave with love and compassion, even if it's for your biggest enemy. If he tried to spew some hateful shit, you don't think I would come at him and try my best to make him see things from a better light? If he was that, clearly was an amazing kid, has, strong values and thinks of the world in a certain way that probably doesn't jive with some people, but not hateful. I didn't hear one hateful thing from him the whole time. Was very polite, very well spoken. And even if he wasn't, though, would I not be the best place? So you just think, just don't let him ever talk again. Just don't platform him on any. So he's just going to go on some right-wing show, if that's who he is, and spew all that hate and not have anybody, speak up and have some. Fuck you. Oh, that just ticked me off for people to come at me for that. It's like, you don't think that, anyways, I don't need you getting mad. We did all the bad stuff at the start, and this is the happy times. The UFC, the Oilers. Well, not the Oilers are that happy, but just that there's playoff hockey. Doesn't matter how your team does. Playoff hockey is just such an amazing sport. Tune into any game, and you're going to be impressed. You're going to see some wild action that you can't get anywhere else. So, yeah. Other than that, this felt amazing to get off my chest. Have just some of these things have just been eating at me. And like I said, this is really cathartic for me to be able to come on here and talk to you guys and do this type of thing and get these things off my chest, and just to know that, even if 1 million people doesn't hear it, at least if somebody wants to hear it, they can, and they can come along with this journey with me. And it's completely a choice. It doesn't cost you any money to listen to this. It's just free. And I hope I can build it into something someday. I know I'll build it in someday. I shouldn't even say hope, because I'm not hoping. I know. But I just want that to happen in the best way possible, that, keeps me as happy as possible and as far away from the dark places that you sometimes have to go in life. But when you can, you got to get out of them, and you got to dig, and you got to ask those questions and figure out what those things are affecting you, and try and do everything you can to make it right. So I'm going to keep doing that. I promise not to give up. So if I can do that, if you're listening, please don't give up. I know everything I said, you probably have just as hard, if not harder, things going on in your life. And I know that sucks. And I know that's a lot to ask, just to keep putting that one foot in front of the other like I am. But if I'm doing it, please do it too. And you know what? In a couple months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, we're going to look back on this time. We're going to say, hey, aren't we fucking glad we didn't give up there at that time? And, May 29th or whatever it is right now, 2021, in the middle of the pandemic and all this bullshit, and everyone at the end of their rope. And man, are we glad we didn't give up, because look where we are now. And it'd be fun to look back on times like this at that point. So please don't give up. I won't give up. And let's keep kicking ass. Let's keep bringing positivity and love to the world. I know there's a lot of things that are trying to piss you off and divide us, but just keep that number one thing in your heart is love and compassion, and leaving that door open for people to see the error of their ways and to adopt that love into their heart. And I know that sounds silly, but that's what it takes. It's what all these big issues we talk about on the podcast, it all comes back to that. If you lead with love and compassion, the solutions we get to will be a lot better. So yeah, I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Thanks for allowing me to do this, and see you guys on the next one. All right. Bye. 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 All right. Bye.